Welcome to Inclusion for All Radio. My name is Chinasa Collins Ogbo, and I'm the advocacy lead at EFINA, and I also head Inclusion for All. Inclusion for All is an initiative at EFINA that's multifaceted. It's a multifaceted advocacy program that's pro-poor and seeks to deepen the knowledge and understanding of the impact of exclusion on the most marginalized communities. Inclusion for All Radio is a platform within Inclusion for All initiative, which seeks to tell stories and facilitate dialogue exchanges about the people we care about. And it's essentially to help us get the perspectives and thoughts of our key stakeholders around the people that we care about. Today's episode is titled Banking Without Buildings: Can True Inclusion Happen Without Digital Enablement? And we're getting this from a financial service provider's perspective. Just a bit of background around the topic. Basically, we want to critically examine whether Nigeria's current financial inclusion model, which is largely driven by digital financial services, can actually deliver true and sustainable inclusion without adequate digital enablement to the last mile. Specifically, this episode will seek to explore how literacy gaps, digital capability constraints, infrastructure limitations, language barriers, and device affordability affect the ability of the poorest and rural users to independently, safely, and confidently engage with digital financial tools. And through this episode, we aim to highlight practical, policy-relevant insights on what must accompany DFS expansion. So is it digital literacy, investment, inclusive interface design, strengthening of infrastructure, and consumer protection to ensure that digital adoption translates into meaningful financial inclusion rather than shallow or dependent access? We know that in Nigeria, financial inclusion has shifted decisively towards digital channels, and agent networks such as USSD services, mobile apps, instant payments, and fintech platforms now form the backbone of last mile service delivery. A 2023 survey from the A2F shows that formal financial inclusion has reached 64% and 26% of adults remain excluded. Digital financial services usage has also increased, with 45% of Nigerians reporting use of digital services in the past year before 2023. This insight has been validated by recent findings from EFINA's I4ALL Grassroots Network initiative, which suggests that for rural areas, fintechs are the most available and commonly adopted channel of access. Joining me today is someone from the financial service provider space and a fintech as that we all know and we're definitely all familiar with, Moniepoint. Her name is Edidiong Uwemakpan, and we call her Didi. She's the Vice President Corporate Affairs at Moniepoint Group, and she'll be sharing with us from her experience and the work she does at Moniepoint how we can reach the last mile and what are the key tools that we need and the key actions that we need to take to ensure that we can reach the last mile through digital financial services and banking without buildings, essentially. And so can true inclusion happen without digital enablement, or do we need digital enablement to ensure that we reach the last mile? Welcome, Didi, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Chinasa, and the rest of the team. Thank you for having me. My surname is Uwemakpan. But you tried, you did a good job.
Thank you so much. I apologize. I promised that I would not murder your name, but thank you for correcting me. Uwemakpan. It's a mouthful, but it's definitely not difficult. As I'm Nigerian, it shouldn't be a problem. Awesome. So I'll jump right into it. I think that we are supposed to start with an icebreaker. So Didi, you've worked in this space for how long now? And I know from my experience, like I've worked in banking for over 10 years, or I worked in banking for over 10 years. And I remember at some point in my career, we had started to talk about branchless banking and banking without buildings, right? But what I see today from that time is that we still have a lot of branches, but I know organizations like yours, Moniepoint, obviously, are doing the banking without buildings. But do you see a world truly in Nigeria that has banking without buildings, given what you know about the exclusion rates and what's the level of literacy amongst the people that are yet to come into the banking system? And when do you see that happening? Is this a ridiculous future or is this a realistic future?
It's an optimistic future. It's a
I like
world that
that.
I hope would see soon, but I don't see it happening anytime soon for two major reasons, right? One is
Okay.
we're largely high touch, and it's largely driven because of literacy levels. So I want to see where my money is, even though I don't know if it's physically in. And so because I want
Mm-hmm.
to see where it is, I want to know that there is a building somewhere that I can go, or I can go and hold somebody's shirt if I cannot find my money. But then the second reason is just the need for wet ink as a whole. And even though you can download documents and you can download statements,
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of these people, they're not able to do that. So they still need to physically go into a location. And that's why you, even in some of the most developed part of the world, you still find branches because then there's still a need for documentation. So as long as there's a need for some level of documentation, you would still find
Mm-hmm.
branches.
Interesting. So a world with banks without buildings is something of imagination, cannot be completely
At some
so we
point,
cannot
maybe
completely
blockchain, as they say, something.
at some point, but so obviously not in the near future, right?
Not in
Because
the
again, yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think share your sentiments because I think there's still a lot that needs to be covered in terms of digital enablement, which is really what this topic is focused on, right? There's still gaps in terms of literacy, even in terms of access to the tools, so much to be done. And the vast majority of people that are excluded are completely removed from those opportunities, right? So we need to provide those opportunities. And even the ones that are included, there's still a gap in terms of literacy. So, yes, I completely agree that it's not happening in the near future, but it's something that we can aspire towards, I suppose. And so I will just move right into the conversation proper. And basically, we're trying to see um, from your perspective what's missing and what's changing and what it will take to enable practical and effective digital financial inclusion for the excluded, poor, and rural segments. And so, my first question to you, Didi, is in your experience, is digital finance truly empowering last mile users, or is it creating a new layer of difficulty and a barrier?
So if we think about it in from a job to be done perspective, like what do people want from their financial services provider? I want to be able to store my money safely somewhere. I want to be able to access my money
Mhm.
when I need it. I want to be able to make payments when I need it. I want to get credit if possible when I need it. I want to earn interest on my savings if possible as well. And I think fundamentally, right, this is why you want a financial services provider, or this is why you would accept to have a financial services provider if someone approaches you. Now,
Mhm.
in the past, and even till today, if I'm correct, there are about 300 local government areas in Nigeria without a physical bank branch. So before digital financial services became a thing, you had a lot of people excluded, and by exclusion
Excluded.
that meant that their monies were put somewhere in their house in cash. That meant
Under
that
the
they
mattress.
had to yeah they had to pay merchants with cash. That meant that they were not earning interest on their savings. That meant that they were not
Mhm.
able to get credit. And so what's happening now is a number of them, because they then have access to phones anyway, thankfully, and then it makes sense that telecommunication will come first, right? So with the advent of phones, and then with people being able to have smartphones, then they were then able to access some service. And for you to then access that service, it means that there's a level of empowerment that has come with that. So your money is saved, and it won't be easily stolen by people. Your money can then earn you more money, so you can be earning interest in the bank. You can get credit because that money is in the bank, and there's just a lot more. So if we look at it from that point of view, I would say that there's been a level of empowerment. It comes with its own barriers, to be honest. But fundamentally, in the past, you would have gotten nothing, and now you're getting at least a 5, a 6 out of 10 because of digital financial services. So I would say it's been empowering for them.
Okay, and thank you for that response. I agree with you in part, and I say that because again, someone who's listening would wonder if this is the reality of the people in the heart of like rurality in very hard to reach communities. And whilst the reason that I agree is indeed it's bringing financial services to them without the limitation or the cost of having to set up an actual physical building, right? But then there's also a question of rural connectivity and accessibility, and even more importantly, the literacy level, right? So it's one thing to have the device, it's one thing to have the solution available, but can they use it and use it in a way that actually translates to value for them? If they're lacking the financial literacy and all of those things, because all of those things, how to use it and when to use it and what to use it for, is what then should translate to, empowerment. And is that what we're seeing? Who's filling those gaps? Who's offering the digital literacy? For instance, at Moniepoint, is there any initiative or any sort of program that's seeking to address those very nuanced challenges?
100%. So, and I think
That's it.
that's why I said that if you take it out of 10, we're not there yet. There's still a gap,
Okay.
but
True.
there's
True.
progress. So if we look at Money Points, one of the things we did from the very beginning is build something we call a distribution network for financial services, and
That's
it's
it.
essentially multiple people in multiple
Mm-hmm.
communities that serve as the trust layer for us. Now, what do these people do? These
Okay.
people they help with access, they help with communication, they help with
Okay.
bringing them on board, explaining what that means, but they're also a first level support. And so by the time
Okay.
someone comes on board, they know that, hey, if I have problems, I can call this person who speaks my language. Again, our
Right.
support structure as well at Moniepoint was built to cater for this, where support people are in
Fantastic.
every single state. And so there's always
Mm-hmm.
someone that speaks your language in that state. And
Awesome.
not just us. I want to believe it. There are a few other financial services providers, and if they're not, please, it's a model to follow, where support is
Mm-hmm.
super local. And so if
Radical.
you look at the two things that are super local for us, onboarding is super local and support is super local,
Okay.
and communication as well. So we would usually convert our communication out of English into different languages. Um, there's still
Mm-hmm.
there's still progress to be made. And when you think about these things come
Of
with their
course.
own, they come with their own, and we've learned
Challenges.
along the way because they come with their challenges. And I'll give you an example. If I am not
Yeah.
as literate, someone comes
Mm-hmm.
to onboard me, it means that the person is having access to some things that should be very personal to me. If the
But
person
I
is
don't
not
even know.
100, exactly, if the person is now not a
Mm.
100% honest person, I've allowed someone into one of the most
Ooh.
private parts of
Yeah.
myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
that is something that we thought about, we found out, to be honest, after building our service at some point, and we're like, okay, well,
Mm-hmm.
there are
Mm-hmm.
bad actors in the system. So then you then start to break information where all your information is not with that trust layer that you have. So all your information is not with your distribution network. You still need to always talk to your customer directly. So there are times where you'd be like, hey, this thing I'm sending to you is for only you. It's not for anyone else. It's not for anybody that says they're from Moniepoint. It's not from anyone else. It's for just you. That way you can preserve the privacy and the safety of that user. Because yes, using people speaking their language, it helps, but then it's financial services, it's your personal money. Some things still need to be for your consumption only. And that's an example of a challenge we faced, where someone else knows somebody's OTP, and then over a period of time we were like, nope, this can't be happening. And so we communicate directly with users. You send them things on their phone, let them know this is only for you, not for anyone else. It's not easy.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I think that's great job. And I think what is important is to recognize that with this segment and obviously introducing technology as a tool to drive access, is that there will always be opportunities to learn. And indeed, it's to open oneself to learning and improving. And I think that's the approach that you're taking at Moniepoint. So you've gone in with a goal to ensure that these people get all the support that they need to ensure that, you know, the access and the usage of those services is almost seamless. But then in doing that, you identify certain barriers. So you're improving the process and everything to just ensure that, you know, at the end of the day, the customer is protected and putting the customer's interests ahead of everything. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll move to the next question. And again, as a provider, what would you say from your standpoint? How do you balance rapid digital expansion with the reality that many last mile users may not be digitally confident? So there's rapid expansion. Moniepoint, as we all know it, there's nobody that doesn't know Moniepoint, and the other party, let me not mention their name. And but there's this wide expansion, but we also see that there's still, you know, that digital divide in terms of literacy levels and even confidence level in how to use these tools. So how do you balance that rapid expansion with that reality? And I think that you may have answered some of it in the previous question, just really talking about your continuous improvement process, but happy to hear anything else outside of that.
Yeah, I think so. In terms of when I look at confidence, I can break confidence into two. One is the willingness to
Okay.
even adopt this service, and then two
Okay.
is the willingness to continue using this service after your experience. And if we look at the adoption, it is part of it
Willingness
is
is high.
solved by using people around them that they trust, which is some of what we've built
Word of
with
mouth.
the distribution
Mm.
service. And also it is just perhaps reducing the barriers to entry. And thankfully with regulation, you have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 accounts where you're not requiring too much of people to come on board. Part of it also is building for them. So I remember when I just joined Moniepoint and I was having a conversation with our CTO, and I asked him what we built. We had not launched an app many years ago, and I asked him what we were doing to the app that was different from other people. And he explained that we were building with Nigerians in mind. So our app was going to work on pretty much any phone. And our ideal customer was this lady who was not as literate. She sold things at a marketplace. And we tested this product with them. So we tested it on this interesting Android device that's being used, that is always
Okay.
full. Those phones that they always have to delete one app to download
Yeah.
the next app. And the idea was testing it. This is the ideal situation of people who would need to download our app. And we built for that. It was very lightweight. It required very little space. And we built for that. And so that's another thing with onboarding. It's like, is your app going to work for them? Is it going to work with very little internet? And over time, I know there are apps that would be able, I don't know if ours does this. I think it does, where you can see your balance if you don't have internet access, but I'm not too sure. But I know over time, like, you would have people thinking about how do you zero rate your app for people who cannot afford to
for the last mile.
Yes, for the last mile specifically. I think that's something that we could think about. How do you zero rate the app? And that's for onboarding, but also for the other bit of confidence, which is I've used this. How was my experience? With your experience, my experience should be smooth. So if you think about one of the we introduce a lot of frictions in banking because of safety. So you need to do this KYC and that KYC. For a lot of them on their small phones, it's stressful. It's like, this fingerprint thing is not working, or this thing is not working. And it's I was talking to someone today about how even identity providers need to build for the last mile because they are not building for the last mile. And it's our experience today. Some of the best identity providers done by global companies were not built for the Nigerian last mile at all. So it's so difficult to build by them. And then you might now have to switch to the people who are just not, they're not as technologically advanced. And what's the balance? Do you then, these are the people that need protection more than anything. The likelihood of someone picking up my phone is very little. The likelihood of someone picking up the woman that sells in the market her phone is higher. So she needs better protection. But that means she needs better tools on her phone. And for us, it's constantly thinking of how all of the services that we use. So for people like Moniepoint, you've built your app, but you also have other services within that app. Are those things equipped for the last mile? For us, we are trying to make that happen, but that's the point here. And then finally, there's affordability. Constantly, everything matters. Actually, before affordability, it is also just resolution processes. So if something fails or I make an erroneous transfer, do I get my money back? Do I get my money back quickly? If not, I'll go back to putting it under my pillow and I'll access my money when I need it. And then finally, it's just, is it affordable? For them, every kobo matters. So it's something to constantly think about how we can make it as affordable for them so that they can continue using the service.
Fantastic. So to just wrap that response up, what I hear you say is when Moniepoint is thinking digital confidence, it's multifaceted, in fact. So there's the onboarding aspect of it, there's the resolution or sort of redress mechanism part of it. There's also then the affordability part of it, which are all very important elements, especially to these users. And I like the fact that you spoke to the realities of these people. So whose phone is more prone to being stolen? And what does that mean to the person's safety or the safety of their funds? And all of these things point to how much trust they can have, in using your service, especially as it comes to money, which, as we know, trust is like the major currency for this space. Any one bad experience that's gone in the wrong direction, it can pretty much, change their perspective for a very long time. And then that word goes around. So it's important to always take into consideration the things that we don't even think about immediately. But yes, that's very interesting. Okay, so I think this would be my last question, and it would be around reliance on agents. So do you think relying on agents compensates for digital literacy gaps, or does it risk creating dependency and exposure? And yes, you did touch on the the risk exposure around the support structures or support layers that you guys have. And so there's the approach that Moniepoint has taken is to then break those activities down so that not one person has all the information. So is there more, or is this still, in doing this, are you still relying on agents or incorporating other mechanisms to reduce this risk exposure for the consumers?
Yeah, so we have something, and I'm gonna use, so we don't call them agents, we call them a distribution network, and I'm mentioning
Okay.
that because I want to speak about agents.
Okay.
Agents in Nigeria, for people that are not in Nigeria watching this, are like human ATMs or agents in financial services largely. They help people
Mm-hmm.
cash in and cash out services. And agents are
Okay.
a business. So they are a type of business on that Moniepoint as well. And that's why we like
Okay.
to.
But they can be individuals as well, no?
No,
Or
no,
they're all
they
businesses,
are
whether
individuals. They are individuals, but
or with the
they're running a business, and the business they're running is
okay,
cash in, cash out.
versus soul. Okay. Okay.
Exactly. Now,
Okay.
what we had done for those set of people, we have something. Let me be sure on this call. It's called. I think if you go to learning.moniepoint.com, let me be sure on this call.
That's
But
fine.
yes, there's a library of resources that we've built for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is for our distribution team, but it helps. Now there's also we have different learning and development platforms that we're building for different people that
Okay.
use us. So from the distribution network, so they learn better about financial services, to the agents, so they learn better, as well as our business owners. This year we are trying to invest more because we're serving a
Mm-hmm.
market that's not as literate about financial services. We're trying to invest more in training and teaching them. And we see that sometimes
So,
it's not even about the monies in their account. You watch some videos
mm-hmm.
and you see how did this person not know to not share their WhatsApp code? And
Mm.
the people just need to
So the
know.
consumer protection sort of element.
Exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that at this point we serve way too many people to not take it seriously. So we have
Course.
plans to invest a lot in
Mm-hmm.
literacy so that you can serve people as they are. Financial services, while the distribution network is great, it needs to be a personal
Mm-hmm.
relationship. It needs to be a personal relationship, and that's the goal. That's the utopia. We should get there, but we would only get there when everyone is as knowledgeable as possible as they should be. So we would invest. We're investing in it, doing it in different languages, in the languages that they understand,
Mm-hmm.
so that at
Okay.
the end of the day, we can talk to a user by themselves. They can interact with the platform by themselves. We're trying to make our apps and everything as simple as possible. What is that one thing you want to do on the app? You want to withdraw, you want to do this. It's direct. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe someday AI will allow us translate into languages
Yes. Yeah.
at scale. That would be lovely. And I was thinking of
That would
something
be
recently,
amazing.
actually. Let me just add this. I was thinking about
Please.
a world in which, the way you have tier one, tier two, tier three accounts, and it's based on like how much we know you.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
would love a world in which we have tiered accounts based on how digitally savvy you are or financially savvy you are, so
Mm.
that
Mm.
we then only expose you to a certain amount
So
of
the
risk.
amount,
So maybe you can
yes,
only
and
do
because of
10, that maybe the
mm,
bank runs like a cyber, like a cyber campaign on you. And if you fail, they're like,
yeah,
nope, you can't take out more than 10,000 naira on this account. But I've just been thinking about it. I think we should go there because,
I love it.
yeah, the last mile needs to be protected more than anything. That's how they
I
would.
can't more than anything. Yeah. And you know what? I absolutely love this thoughts. And, interestingly, I was talking about KYC a couple of days ago, and I still don't understand the tiered access to accounts or tiered usage of accounts based on ID, because you almost can't see the difference between the different ID requirements and what the limits are. So I'll give you an example. If you say in the past, um, before the penetration of the national identity number, which is a government issued ID, what qualified you for a tier 3 account is when you provide your government issued ID. And I think tier 2 was an ID from maybe an organization or something. And then the limit is also based on the kind of ID you've provided, but it's not government issued. So I could provide like my work ID or something, and I'll have a tier 2 account. And then tier 1 was just your phone number and your picture. And so in a world where, everybody should have NIN, it means that everybody has a government issued ID, right? And so what that translates to me is that everybody should be tier 3. But then if the tiering is done based on which is more important, your financial literacy level and your digital, then I can actually really protect you, because the other approach is really the bank saying, if I want to find this person, I know where to find them. But when you have your NIN, that's your foundational ID, then we know who you are, and you can only run for so long, right?
Yeah.
But with this, you're actually thinking of the customer and also protecting them from themselves and any kind of transactions that can put them into further poverty if they take the wrong move. So it's like, you know what, you're not at this level. I think it's such an amazing idea,
It's the
Didi.
same thing that I think about a lot. And sorry, Lucia, I don't know if I'm sure we're running over, but it's the same
I
thing
know.
I think the same thing I think a lot about with regards to business accounts. And then you hear things like, oh, let them register for the CAC. And while that's fine, CAC simply has an address that you have with your
Yes.
bank as well. So the question I keep asking is, how does this solve the problem? And that's how like everyone
Exactly.
in the space needs to think about things. How does this
Yeah,
solve
what
the
problem are we
problem?
trying to solve? And does this really
Exactly.
solve it? Because if you say address verification is what separates tier 2 and I'm like, yeah, but people change their addresses. But, with NIN, even if it doesn't have address, but I know you, it's a unique number for you. So at some point, you'll be found.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally in agreement. Okay. So what we need to change at the ecosystem level, because users feel excluded, not because services are unavailable, but because they can't confidently use them. Yeah, what at the ecosystem level do you think needs to change, Didi?
I think fundamental is what we've just spoken about, which is how do we
I agree.
first make decisions for the person to protect
Mm-hmm.
them? And one is how we think about account hearing. If we can fix that,
Yeah.
then that would go a really, really long way. Because when you think about people using financial services, it's I'm giving you everything I have.
Mm-hmm.
Because for these guys, that's all they have. I'm giving you everything I have, and
Very
I
true.
want you to protect it.
Mm-hmm.
If it's missing, I can't wait for 24,
Yeah,
48 hours for you to refund me. I cannot let that go.
not at all.
And if that happens, I'm
Mm-hmm.
never coming back to digital financial services. So
And I'm going to tell
it
other people not to join
yeah,
me.
not to. So
Yeah.
it's just how do we protect them better? And it's constantly thinking of ways to protect them better. Having people understand that I think one of the things that we started digital financial services with, and we started wrongly, was always about access and access without thinking about
Mm-hmm.
friction. Friction in financial
Yes.
services is not a bug, it's a feature. It's important. It's like you allowing anyone walk into the house. You need a gate, you
Yeah.
need a bell, you need a camera. Who's coming in? Is that the right person that should be coming in?
Absolutely.
So
Love that analogy. Mm.
friction is a feature, and friction has to remain, and people need to understand that friction is there to protect you.
but it's for their own, it's to their for their own good
Yeah.
and in their interests. Absolutely. Didi, I think that this is a good place to actually end the conversation. That ecosystem level change that needs to happen is really anchored on thinking around the account tiering and, the level of access people have based on their level of financial and digital literacy, right? I think that's absolutely would be a game changer in this space. And I dare say also engender trust and confidence, right? If people, or should I say users, especially the people we care about, have an understanding that their interests and their money especially would be protected, then there's more likelihood of them wanting to access and use the digital financial services. So I think it's definitely something that we should try to perhaps propagate and continue to champion. I don't know that the system is ready for it, but it's an important conversation just because a lot of things have also happened since the tiered KYC policies and guidelines have come out, and that needs to be revised. So definitely think it's a great idea. You have presented first here on Inclusion for All Radio. So
I
please
know.
let's note it. You happened here first. Well, thank you so much, Didi.
Thank you
This
so much for
honestly has
having me.
been an amazing conversation. Thank you. I don't know, do you have any sort of last comments or parting shots, as they say, before I round the conversation up?
No, no, I don't have. I think I've spoken a lot, but thank you so much for having me. I'm super, I think I have first-hand experience of financial services, just of
Mm-hmm.
access, of the beauty of access. I
Mm-hmm.
remember my family living somewhere where the bank was 30 minutes away, and every time you had to go to the bank, you had to plan. Every time you had to buy something,
Yeah,
you had to plan. You had to make like it
like
was
a
a whole
project.
thing. And then just speaking to family now and learning that, oh, I just sent someone down to get it from an agent, or oh, I'm
I
saving money
know.
with my Moniepoint. I've locked the money up. I'm not touching it. I'm like, this is so much progress. So I'm a huge
Fantastic.
advocate, and I think that with the right guardrails in place, it's super beneficial to include as many people as possible. And even on the business side, I have seen through my work on Money Points, one of the stories I tell a lot recently was a young guy who, interestingly, law enforcement called out because the guy was expanding, his business was expanding, and law enforcement was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, hey, what's happening here? And the guy said he got a loan from Money Points, and law enforcement called us in like what's happening here.
Oh, wow.
And we went through everything. We went through all of the credit underwriting process. They could see how much this guy's business was doing. Every day, it was
Wow.
a physical restaurant. They were doing so well, and all he needed was
Mm-hmm.
that big break to expand. And now
Fantastic.
it's a well-known restaurant business just because he had that support. So it's and he had that support because he was able to do transactions and because he was able
Mm-hmm.
to just
Mm-hmm.
get that
Mm-hmm.
the not
Wow.
regular underwriting that everyone else that he would have had to get from
Was
traditional banks.
subjected to. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Fantastic.
I'm excited about what the future looks like. It might not be
I
branchless,
am.
but at least more people
Yes.
will be
But
included.
it's in that direction.
Yes.
I completely agree. And I think stories like the one you just told, we should tell more of them, just so that people can see that it's beyond the conversations that we have. It's not just on paper, it's happening to real people. And also, to remind people that financial inclusion is just not, a trendy development conversation, but just really trying to help people who would ordinarily not have access and an opportunity to grow their businesses, giving them that opportunity through digital financial solutions. And as you said, it may not be branchless, but at least we're bringing some branchless to drive empowerment for others that won't have access to the branches. And that, I think, in itself is, great work. And thank you for coming here with not your PR answers, but real, honest answers. And I think that this topic really needed that. People who are inside the system being honest about what the system still gets wrong. And because at the end of the day, the goal isn't just to have an account, it's just not access, as you rightly mentioned. The goal isn't a transaction. The goal is a human being, someone who lives in perhaps Kebbi, Cross Rivers, Plateau, in those, hard to reach communities that can confidently handle their own money in the long run on their own terms without, having to hand their phone to someone else and hope for the best. So we're not there yet. And we also know that it's not happening in the next 5 years, but we know that we're in the right direction of travel. So conversations like this with you, Didi, are the ones that really helps us know, that we're headed in the right direction and help us learn how to get there. So thank you so much, Didi. And Moniepoint is lucky to have you. And so are we today. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. Thank you. Thank you for
And
having
you
me.
as well. Bye.
Bye.
And so to everyone listening, share this one, send it to someone building a product, someone writing a policy, someone who needs to be reminded that the numbers are not the whole story. And we'll see you on the next episode of Inclusion for All Radio. Thank you. And my name is Chinasa Collins Ogro.